And then you can go from there when you know your strengths in the area of your emotional intelligence. So I talked a bit before about internal and external blocks. So to make it really simple, we're going to talk about 4 internal blocks, and then everything else that's not one of those we can consider potentially to be an external block. And what's an external block? Just really simply, let's say you're driving down the road and the light's green, and then the light turns yellow and red. That red is blocking you from going through that intersection if you're choosing to obey it. So a wall could be an external block. A bouncer at a club could be an external block. And you get to decide whether or not you're going to obey that. Am I going to run the red light? Am I going to try and get in, and trick the bouncer, or figure out a way that they don't see me? Or am I going to give them a fake ID? You're trying to get around an external block, right? Am I going to take a sledgehammer and, go through the wall and get through that external block? Well, one, it depends on how important is it for you to get through that block, depending on whatever that block is, or not. And then from there, you'll just make your decision. And it's really simple. But in terms of internal blocks, we're going to get into an entire segment on barriers to success and removing barriers to success. So we're going to look at something called your inner voice. In my type of coaching, we call it a gremlin. It's kind of like that little voice that never shuts up, and it's always critical of you, and it's always on your case. And, no matter what you're trying to do to get ahead, it's like, don't do that. You might get in trouble. That might be too much. You might not want to go running today. Stay in bed. It's okay. You could stay there. Don't worry. Nobody's going to know. Just you and me. Shh, don't tell anybody. That voice, which makes everything so much more comfortable, if that's a possible thing. Then there's something called assumptions, where you figure, well, something happened a certain way before, it's bound to happen again. But we're going to talk about assumptions that aren't accurate. So not every assumption is a bad assumption, because you could make a guess at something and you could be assuming something positively. But then again, you could be having an assumption that's not accurate, and then you might get yourself into a little bit of hot water because you're not understanding or a situation or people that you're being involved with. Next is an interpretation. And with an interpretation, what you have is, for example, let's say I'm speaking to you right now, and if this was a live video and you wanted to speak back, you could speak back, and we're having this conversation, then something comes up and I'm like, what did they mean? What did they say? And I might misinterpret what you say, and interpretation happens between the moment of a conversation. So how am I interpreting what's going on over there with how you're communicating? And is it a good interpretation? Is it a false interpretation? And false interpretations are something we want to look at as a block, because if we believe it's true, but it's really blocking us, it's going to take us on a whole different tangent, and we're going to be like, well, that's what I thought, so I'm over here now. What are you doing over there? Stuff like that happens. And then the last one is limiting beliefs. You've probably heard of this before if you've heard of coaching, or just in general, where you think of something that you have an overarching belief about, like all blondes are dumb, or all cops are crooks, or all life coaches are full of BS because they are. That could be a limiting belief that could keep you in a box around an idea of some universal thing that you believe to be a certain way. So by overcoming your limiting beliefs, you get to be more open-minded, and then you get to check out, oh, there's other opportunities that I haven't considered that might solve whatever I'm up to. So one thing, again, as a review, is we want to look at how can you capitalize, grow, and expand on your strengths as a leader, and how do you bridge those gaps so that you can have the opportunity to do the things that you're up to. One of the ways that you can learn how to do this type of work more optimally for yourself is by working with me one-on-one. So it's not like you're doing the work by yourself. You'll be working with me as a coach-client relationship, so that you would say, hey, what is it that I want to do? Okay, I want to be a millionaire by next week. Well, what's your net worth right now? Oh, my net worth is $999,000, and so it might be a really little goal. Or you could say, I want to be a millionaire by next week. Well, what's your net worth? Oh, I owe $999,000. And I'm not saying either of those is impossible. The first one seems more likely if somebody came along and gave you $1 and said, oh, you're a millionaire now, as opposed to somebody saying, I don't have anything and I'm going to work for this huge deal. But there's all kinds of circumstances for people. Like, you might be getting an inheritance. You might know of something in the stock market that if you invest in right now, you're going to make that money back and then some. You might not know anything, and you might just be going on sheer faith, and that's how you want to spend your time. But to me, working with you is about what's important for you, what's important for the things that matter to you right now that you're looking to get an effective jump start on in the next week, in the next month, in the next few months, in the next year. So when you coach, we coach in small increments so that you can do or practice what you're up to, and then you can come back and measure it and say, okay, I did that, how did I do? So for example, if I go out for a run and I wear my smartwatch and I say, okay, track how far I ran, how fast I ran, etc. And then I come back, and after I'm done being out of breath and all cleaned up and everything, then I look at my results and I say, oh, I thought I ran faster than that today, but at least I have the immediate result. Then I can set my goal for the next time I run. Just like with your coaching, you can set your goal that you want, go out and do it, and then you can see, okay, how am I doing as an immediate result? I'll go to Francis and we'll talk and we'll get the feedback. And it's going to be you versus you, because I'm just there as an accountability piece so that you can come to me and say, oh, I did or I didn't do what I said I was up to. And then we'll look at all the strengths and gaps of things that might be happening for you so that you can say, yes, I did all this, or no, I didn't do this, and this is what got in the way. You'll start to know that for yourself. You'll be telling me what you should be doing instead of me asking you questions that ultimately you give the answer to, which tells you what you should be doing, and then you choose whether or not to do it. So it's that simple. So that accountability piece is awesome, especially if you're like a type A person. You say, you know what, I know I'm going to do this, but I really want to make sure I'm going to do it, so I want to have you as an accountability person. Or you could say, well, I don't always keep my word, or I don't always finish what I start, so I really want to get on track and I want to know what that's like to be in that group. That was me years ago. I wouldn't finish books that I read. I wouldn't finish courses that I would take. And I don't mean in school. I just mean, oh, I have this course that I bought online, but I'm not going to finish it because of whatever excuse or reason that would come up, whether it was a belief that I had or, you know, an assumption that I made. Well, I did it before. It's not going to do anything for me again. And then go from there. So the purpose of this training is to introduce you to where we're going. That's why I said get your notebook, because there's going to be a lot of stuff for you to write down for yourself, which is going to be cool. And it's also for me to introduce what I do on a more detailed level as a one-to-one coaching professional. And there's also an opportunity for you to check out what I do by only investing your time. So it's not going to cost you anything else. You're just going to make an investment of time, and you're going to come ready to work on, you know, what's the 3 most important things to me right now that I want to have action on in the next week and the next month. And then from there, what you want to do is you want to say, is this for me or not? And it's a simple yes or no. And then you'll know, you know what? I really want to try out coaching. Or you might say, you know what, that's not for me. I'm not even interested. You could be anywhere in between, and that's cool, because here you are in the training. Again, I appreciate you being here. And to wrap up, our next session is going to be episode 5, which is going to be removing barriers to success. We're going to get more into those internal blocks and a little bit more about the external blocks, but not that much more, because they aren't as important as dealing with yourself first, so that you can get a handle on, you know, what is my perception of reality, and can I reality check myself and see if that's really what's going on. So I'll talk to you soon on the next training. I hope you're having a great rest of the day. And again, thanks for being here.